Hi, I'm Dan from Straight Curve. I trust you may know me by now, and I'm just going to talk you through our raised garden beds accessories. So I'm going to use this video on the screen, play through, pause where needed, and explain things as we go. So let's have a look. Starting off with the Flex and Rigid raised garden beds. So these are the corner pieces. These ones are for the 240mm high raised garden bed, and here we have the 400 and the 560. So just look at these closely. These ones actually have the slots you see here. This is the slightly older style. So what you have now will have multiple slots in there, and that's to accommodate the different heights. So it means that the 240, the 400, and the 560 are all compatible. There are slots which will line up between them, which means that you can join them and get a continual top edge. So that's really good for people to understand. It's useful when working, say, up a bank where you use a certain amount of steel down low, but then as you work your way up, you need less actual face. So they can reduce to a 240 from a 400 as an example. The corners themselves, they do come pre-made like you see here. We do hope to actually change that. So that would eventually arrive. We'll create some that actually come flat because we've got access to some new technology that will allow us to easily shape those from flat. But for now, this is what we have, and they can actually be squeezed in. I've done it with a ratchet strap. I found that is a good way. It's actually quite a strong force required to change these, but yes, it can be done opening out as well. It's hard work, but it's achievable. Each corner comes with the join pieces you see as on this one. So that's something else which is good for people to understand, that there's no extra join set required. You're simply going to be continuous with with the panels that they're working with. Moving along. Okay, that's the join set for the 240, and this one, you notice it's got 3 sliders and 3 wedge pieces along with the connector plate. This is actually an older version, so that's where it used to just slip over. Now we have one where it actually fits a bit more, squeezes more tightly in place. Although we've improved that again, so just stay tuned for the new and latest on the way. Now, in terms of what's next, we've got the 0 planter boxes. So these are the panels and the way these join. So this one is a straight join set, and this here is the top piece, and you'll notice that's in weathering steel because that's the one that's visible. As for what's in the ground, it's these galvanized pieces. Used to come as one long piece and break them away, so now we've got it as 3 separate pieces and just wrap them together. Reason being that obviously it takes up less space and easier to transport. So that's that one. And here is the closed corner set. This is a breakaway, so bending this back and forth, and the same with the arrows to the side, you'll snap them off and then be left with the 3 arrow pieces, the base plate, and this piece which is actually shaped into a staircase pattern to create the top of the corner. And this is for the open corner, reverse corner, and that occurs when people are doing like an L-shaped bed, or I guess any kind of turns. If they're doing it for a single wall, they might be going back and forth a bit. So this is a really easy one. Just simply slips in to behind the top lip, and then there's guide holes for the Tek screws which will line up. If you ever have any feedback that the holes aren't lining up, it's probably just a fear-based feedback. There is always generally there's a way through that's going to pull it tighter. It's actually intentional that they're not perfect with this particular piece because it's part of the pull-in. So just tell them to get their Tek screw in there and just go for it. It'll work out. I also tend to do the top first, by the way. So that's the same with all the pieces. Do the top first. That's the most important one, and then work your way down. And then the anchoring. So with the 240, we'll look at this one first. This is a ground anchor post, which is 470mm long. It's galvanized. It's a very strong unit, and this is just bashed into the ground adjacent to the bracing rib. Now, once that's in place, then it's a simple case of screwing through the bracing rib into the side of this post. This is interesting. So you may also have these previously in stock. These actually allows you to fit this under the top lip and screw into the back of the post. And going forwards, we're actually looking to return to this option, but for now, I'm assuming you're probably just going to have the post. But if you do have the set, very straightforward how that works. And that's actually referred to as the set, the ground anchor set, because it does include the two pieces rather than just the post. And this is a demonstration of how it would be positioned on that post once it's in the ground. All right, anchoring the 400 and 560, that's a different story. Taller edge needs a bigger system, and this is the ground anchor post 1100mm one and the fitting set that comes with that. So with the zero flex planters, previously called the fixed height line, you want to be using the fitting set to sit in behind that top boxy lip and also to attach to the foot. And then that is attached to the post here. There's actually, I think we've got some footage of that. Let's see what comes up next. Hope so, now I've said that. It's yes, gold. Okay, so this bottom piece, you screw it into the foot, screw it into the post, and so on the top, screw into the post, and it sits behind the top lip. This is an adjustable process. There's a slot in there, so at the time of fixing, they can make some slight adjustments. Move on to the next system we have. The bracing or the universal bracing set. Oh, hang on, sorry, we're looking at bracing ribs first. That's fair enough. So this bracing rib is the 241. So that at the moment comes with the panels. There's two of them in each panel. They are something that can be moved. Let's see what's next. So yeah, there's the 400 and the 560. Same story, just a bit bigger. But notice this hooking point here, and same at the top. Those are useful at times, and the little guide holes here are for securing to the large or the ground anchor post. Oh yeah, so this shows you how these can actually be moved or reinserted. So if you have one arrive and they've fallen out, you can tap them back in like that. Or if you're explaining to a customer that they're movable in case they have an obstacle in the way, they can simply tap it vertically from the top to loosen it out and then position it in another foothold like so, and then tap it to vertical. And that will be secure. So that's a movable bracing rib, which is a good thing to point out, I think, to the customers. Now, universal bracing set. This is the way we work with the bracing ribs themselves in the least disruptive installation method, because you're not having to dig the deep or get the large post in. But you do need to make sure this anchor post is very strongly supported. So concreting around this stake is often necessary. In very firm ground, you can get away with not doing that, but it's a bit of a risk to take because some conditions obviously change from season to season. So generally, it's good to be concreting around this actual anchor stake. The chain, and that is carabined onto the post, and then there's a turnbuckle. So because there's a turnbuckle with a hook, you can hook into the chain at the length that's required. So the instruction is to use as much chain as possible because that gives better leverage on support. But if you're limited for space, you can obviously use the chain at a shorter length. Oh yeah, whoops, I really need to say that too. Let's duck back 1 second. So this turnbuckle, this one's been opened out. You can see there's a space here between the two threads. So that's important. When it comes, often they're really close together, and that gives you no adjustment space. So just remind the customers to open those out before using. This is the bracing strap set. So this is, I'll zoom out again. Okay, so all these lines indicate breakaway points. So bending it back and forth at that point can break it off to the length that's needed. And the reason that is applicable is for the zero flex planters to span the distance across from the top hole to the bottom and the other top to the bottom. So basically creating a diagonal cross like so. There'll be a certain distance that works, whether it's a 400 wide planter or a 600 wide planter or 800 up to 1200 millimeters wide. So once you've got it to the right span, these little lock pins are used to connect to the join. There's a hole there where the straight joins occur, and this is only for straight joins in the zero flex planters. That's where you would be using this one. Every straight join needs a support of some kind. This can be the way, or if it's a single wall, then you can use the universal bracing set and just hook in at the top. Okay, joining and fixing. Let's see what we've got here. Okay, the fixing spikes. So you get Actually get 5 of these for every panel of the 240, 400 and the 560. They're not included with the Zero Flex panels. In most cases, if it's a closed planter, they're not going to be needed. But there are times when you're doing a wall when they would be required. So that would be an extra sale for you to make the customer aware of. And for the Zero Flex, you don't need the 5. You're looking at, say, 2 per panel or 3 per panel for the longer one. That's good. Oh yeah, we've got the zinc color Tek Screws and the Dacromet zinc ones, as I've said previously, are for those that want the weathering steel coloration, because these will rust over the surface just like the weathering steel does, whereas the Dacromet will hold their grey colour and are very good for an in-ground option, long lasting. Those ones actually you don't use them much, but you use them, say, for these join sleeves, which would be on the front of the raised garden bed. We used to call them join sleeves, and they've changed the name now to join part for offcuts, because there was a bit of confusion where people thought they had to get these when they were joining the panels. Obviously, we have the join flange and the join set for joining the panels, but if that's cut off, that's when you need the join part for offcuts. And with this, there are screws that are visible on the face, so that's why using the zinc color screws can be good if you're working with weathering steel. Or customers could even choose to drill this out a bit bigger and insert a feature bolt if they wanted to. Positioning of the join part also can be done in a place, hopefully it's a bit more discreet. So it's, yeah, and that's the other reason why as well, that when we're doing circles, we recommend using whole panels and not cutting the panel. This is a circle creates a bit of stress on the join anyway, which is better accommodated for by the actual join panels being whole, or the panels being whole. But yeah, as a general rule, this is just for offcuts where people have a bit left over and they want to still use it for a join. But yeah, it just fits over the top of the edge and to the face. Oh yeah, one other thing too, it's not out of the question that you could use like a 400 join part for a 560, because it's a nice clean cut of steel. So it will still look tidy enough if you're in a situation where you had to come up with a solution there. All right, so that's it. We've got that on there, that's all the garden edging. So that's in the other video you can watch. Hope that's been helpful. One thing that occurred to me which I didn't include there was the 2 meter Zero Flex panel. If you have those, they need bracing in the middle, and that is done with a specific bracing rib for that item. So you need to order that in and then just use the standard methods that we've discussed. But that wasn't shown in the video. Other than that, I think we've covered all of it. So I hope that's been helpful, and I'll leave it with you to wow the customers with your enhanced knowledge. Bye for now.